The boy mocked the one-legged girl so loudly the whole parking lot turned to look, but none of them saw the Mafia boss standing 3 feet behind him. And in 5 seconds, that satisfying smirk was about to be wiped off his face forever. The girl sat crumpled on the asphalt, crutches scattered, prosthetic leg twisted at an ugly angle, tears cutting through the dust on her cheeks. The 10-year-old boy stood over her, hand on his hip, finger pointing like a weapon, laughter pouring out of him like he'd just won something. "Look at her," he cackled. "She can't even stand up." He didn't hear the Rolls-Royce. He didn't see the tinted window slide down. He didn't notice the tattooed neck, the dark sunglasses, the jaw carved from stone. But he was about to. The rear door opened. Out stepped a man in a dark blue suit worth more than most people's cars. His white shirt was open at the collar, revealing ink that told stories most people couldn't survive. 2 more men emerged from the front. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. His name was Dante Bellucci. In this city, that name made grown men disappear. He looked at the scene. The laughing boy, the crying girl, the crowd doing nothing. And something in his eyes went cold. He stepped forward. If stories like this already have your heart racing, hit like so more people see it. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? The girl's name was Lisa Evans, 11 years old. 2 years ago, a drunk driver killed her father on impact. She survived but lost her leg below the knee. The boy was Curtis Miller, 10 years old. Wealthy parents who were never home. He'd never faced a consequence in his life. Curtis didn't see Lisa as a person. He saw entertainment, an easy target who couldn't fight back. That afternoon, Lisa had come to the mall alone. Her mother's birthday was in 3 days. She'd saved $11 recycling cans, enough for a small lavender candle, her mom's favorite. She was crossing the parking lot when Curtis spotted her. The shove came from behind. She hit the pavement hard. Crutches flying, palms scraping asphalt. The small bag with the candle skidded across the ground. Curtis circled her like prey. "You can't even walk right." He kicked one crutch further away. Then he spotted the bag, snatched it up. $11? That's pathetic." "Please." Her voice cracked. "It's for my mom." He grinned, held it over his head, ready to throw. That's when the shadow fell. The parking lot went dead silent. Curtis turned. His grin vanished. Dante Bellucci stood 6 feet away, motionless, his scarred hands loose at his sides. His men flanked the Rolls-Royce like statues. "Who?" Curtis's voice cracked. "Who are you?" Dante removed his sunglasses. His eyes were dark, ancient, carrying something that looked like grief wrapped in rage. He didn't answer. He just looked at the scene. The scattered crutches, the crying girl, the candle held hostage, and his jaw tightened. Most people didn't know why Dante Bellucci had a soft spot for broken things, but there was a reason. Her name was Maria, his little sister, born with a twisted spine. She spent her childhood enduring stares, whispers, cruelty from kids just like this one. At 16, she decided she couldn't carry it anymore. Dante found her, held her, and made a promise he'd kept for 20 years. He would never watch cruelty win. Not ever again. Now here it was, right in front of him. He stepped toward Curtis. Slow, deliberate, each footstep echoing like a countdown. Curtis stumbled backward. The bag slipped from his fingers. The candle inside shattered against the ground. "I didn't," the boy stammered. "It was just a joke." Dante stopped, crouched down, eye level. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, calm, and absolutely terrifying. "You think this is funny?" Lisa Evans wasn't always the girl with one leg. 2 years ago, she was just a kid, 9 years old. Pigtails, gap-toothed smile, a laugh that made her dad call her my little hurricane. She remembers the night it ended. Every detail, like a scar burned into her brain. It was raining. Her father was driving. They were coming home from her soccer game. She'd scored 2 goals. He kept looking at her in the rearview mirror, grinning like she'd just won the World Cup. "That second goal," he said. "Absolute rocket, baby girl." She was smiling back at him when the headlights appeared. The truck ran the red light doing 60. The driver was 3 times over the legal limit. He walked away with a broken arm. Lisa's father didn't walk away at all. She woke up in the hospital 4 days later. Her mother was sitting beside her, eyes hollow, face gray, holding her hand like it was the only thing keeping her alive. "Where's Daddy?" Her mother didn't answer. She just cried. It took Lisa 3 more days to understand, and 2 weeks after that to learn the rest. Her right leg was gone, below the knee, crushed in the wreck. The doctors said she was lucky to be alive. Lucky! She's never understood that word since. The apartment is different now. It used to be full of noise. Her dad singing off-key in the kitchen, her mom laughing at his terrible jokes, the TV too loud, music playing, life happening. Now it's quiet. The kind of quiet that presses against your ears. Her mom works double shifts at the hospital, leaves before Lisa wakes up, comes home after she's asleep. There's always a note on the counter, always a meal in the fridge, always a text that says, "I love you, baby. Be brave." But the chair at the dinner table stays empty, and the bills keep coming. Lisa sees them sometimes, stacked on the counter when her mom forgets to hide them. Red letters, final notices, words like overdue and collections, and numbers so big they make her stomach hurt. She knows it's her fault. The surgeries, the prosthetic, the physical therapy 3 times a week. She's expensive. That's what she heard her mom whisper into the phone once, late at night, when she thought Lisa was asleep. "I don't know how much longer I can do this." Lisa never told her she heard. She just started recycling cans after school, saving every dollar, trying to be less of a burden. Mornings are the hardest. The prosthetic takes 15 minutes to put on. Sometimes longer if her residual limb is swollen. Sometimes the liner doesn't fit right, and she has to start over. Then the crutches. Always the crutches. Because the prosthetic is old, doesn't fit like it used to. Her mom can't afford a new one. School is a minefield. The stairs, the whispers, the way kids step aside in the hallway like she's contagious. The fake smiles from teachers who look at her with pity instead of seeing her. She used to play soccer. Now she watches from the bleachers. She used to run. Now she calculates every step. She used to feel like a person. Now she feels like a problem everyone's too polite to mention. But she doesn't complain. Doesn't cry. Doesn't ask, "Why me?" Because her dad wouldn't want that. He used to say, "Evans don't quit, Evans get back up." So every morning, Lisa straps on the leg that reminds her of the worst night of her life, grabs the crutches that make her different, walks out the door into a world that doesn't see her, and she gets back up. Even when no one's watching, even when it hurts, even when she wants to scream that she's tired of being brave, she keeps going, because that's what her father would have done. Curtis Miller had everything a kid could want. A house with 12 rooms, a pool in the backyard, a game room bigger than most people's apartments, closets full of sneakers he'd worn once, shelves lined with toys he'd already forgotten. He had everything, except the one thing that mattered. His father was Richard Miller, corporate attorney, corner office downtown. He left for work before Curtis woke up and came home after he was asleep. On the rare nights he made it to dinner, his phone never stopped buzzing. His eyes never left the screen. "Not now, Curtis. Daddy's busy." That was the soundtrack of his childhood. His mother was Vanessa, She was beautiful, always dressed like she was heading somewhere important. Charity galas, spa weekends, brunches with women who air-kissed and talked about nothing. She loved Curtis. She said so all the time, usually while checking her reflection, usually on her way out the door. "Mommy loves you, sweetheart. Be good for Rosa." Rosa was the nanny, the fourth one in 3 years. She was 62, tired, counting down to retirement. She'd learned early that discipline meant complaints. Complaints meant meetings with Mrs. Miller. Meetings meant getting fired. So Rosa didn't discipline. She didn't engage. She sat in the living room watching telenovelas while Curtis did whatever he wanted. And Curtis wanted a lot. The first time he got in trouble, he was 6. He pushed a kid off the swings at the park. The boy landed on his arm. Hairline fracture. Parents threatened to sue. Richard made it go away, wrote a check, made a call. Curtis never heard another word about it. The second time, he was 8. He threw a rock at a neighbor's dog. The dog needed stitches. The neighbor was furious. Vanessa sent flowers and a gift basket. The neighbor stopped complaining. Curtis learned something that day. Something dangerous. Actions don't have consequences. Not for him, not for Millers. Money was an eraser. It wiped away everything. By 10, cruelty had become a habit. Not because Curtis was evil. He wasn't. He didn't lie awake at night planning ways to hurt people, but hurting people felt like something. And feeling something was better than feeling nothing. His house was huge but empty. His parents were present but absent. His nanny was there but invisible. No one talked to him. No one saw him. No one cared what he did, unless it caused a problem they had to fix. So he caused problems. At school, he was the kid everyone avoided. Not because he was scary, because he was unpredictable. One day he'd be your friend. The next, he'd spread a rumor that made everyone laugh at you. He targeted the weak, the quiet ones, the ones who wouldn't fight back. Not because he hated them, because they were easy, and because somewhere deep inside, somewhere he couldn't reach, he wanted someone to stop him. He wanted someone to look at him, really look, and say, "That's enough." But no one ever did. His teacher sent notes home. His parents paid for new library books, new sports equipment, new whatever made the school stop calling. Curtis kept pushing, kept testing, kept waiting for a wall that never came. The morning he saw Lisa Evans at the mall, he wasn't planning anything. He was bored. His mom had dropped him off with $40 and told him to entertain himself while she got her nails done. $40 and 2 hours alone. He wandered, looked at shoes he already owned, played games on his phone, felt that familiar emptiness gnawing at his chest. Then he saw her, the girl with the crutches, the weird leg, moving slow through the parking lot like she was afraid of falling. Something sparked in his brain. Not hatred, not malice, just opportunity. Here was someone weaker than him. Someone who couldn't run, couldn't fight, couldn't make him feel small. He didn't think about her feelings, didn't wonder about her story. He just followed. Because no one had ever taught him not to. Dante Bellucci was not born a monster. He was made, piece by piece, year by year, until the boy who once believed in goodness became the man who ruled through fear. He grew up in the Bronx, red brick apartments, cracked sidewalks, the smell of exhaust and garlic and survival. His father worked construction until his back gave out. His mother cleaned houses for people who never learned her name. They had nothing, but they had each other. And they had Maria. Maria was 4 years younger than Dante, born with spina bifida. Her spine curved wrong, her legs never worked right. She walked with braces and crutches from the time she was 5. She was also the brightest thing in Dante's world. She laughed like church bells, drew pictures of butterflies and gave them to strangers, believed that people were good even when they proved her wrong again and again. Dante worshipped her. He walked her to school every day, carried her books, stood between her and anyone who looked at her too long. But he couldn't be everywhere. And the world is full of Curtis Millers. The cruelty started small. Whispers in the hallway. Kids moving away from her in the cafeteria, like her condition was contagious. Laughter when she dropped something and couldn't bend down to pick it up. Maria never told their parents. Never told Dante. She just smiled and said she was fine. But Dante saw. He saw the light dim in her eyes, saw her stop drawing butterflies, saw her start wearing long sleeves to hide the bruises from where kids accidentally bumped her into walls. He fought back, bloody knuckles and black eyes and suspensions that made his mother cry. But the cruelty didn't stop. It just got smarter, quieter, harder to prove. By 14, Maria stopped smiling. By 15, she stopped leaving her room. By 16, she stopped altogether. Dante found her, a Tuesday afternoon. He came home early from his shift at the warehouse. The apartment was too quiet. He called her name. No answer. Her bedroom door was locked. He broke it down with his shoulder. She was on the bed, eyes closed, empty pill bottle on the nightstand, a note in her handwriting. 3 words. I'm too tired. Dante held her body for 2 hours before his mother came home. He didn't scream, didn't cry, just held her and made promises to a God he would never believe in again. He was 19 years old. Something inside him died in that room, and something else was born. The next 10 years were a blur of blood and money. Dante clawed his way up from the streets, ran errands for the Carlucci family, proved himself useful, proved himself ruthless, proved himself willing to do what others wouldn't. By 25, he had his own crew. By 30, he had his own territory. By 35, he had an empire. The Bellucci name became a shadow that made powerful men nervous. Dante built something untouchable, legitimate businesses layered over darker ones, politicians in his pocket, cops on his payroll, a fortress of fear and respect. He had everything now, the suits, the cars, the Rolls-Royce with bulletproof glass, the penthouse that overlooked the city like a throne. But none of it mattered, because Maria was still gone. And every day he saw her, in every disabled kid on the street, in every person struggling while the world looked away, in every act of cruelty that went unpunished. He funded hospitals anonymously, built wheelchair ramps in neighborhoods that couldn't afford them, made sure certain predators disappeared without a trace. But it was never enough. The guilt was a wound that wouldn't heal. He should have protected her, should have done more, should have burned the world down before letting it hurt her. He didn't, and now he spent every day trying to make up for it. That afternoon, Dante was being driven to a meeting when his car passed the mall. He saw the boy first, laughing, pointing. Then he saw the girl on the ground, crutches scattered, prosthetic leg twisted, crying, and suddenly he wasn't in a parking lot anymore. He was 19, holding his sister, reading 3 words that destroyed him. "Stop the car!" Lisa almost didn't go to the mall that day. Her leg was hurting. The socket of her prosthetic had been rubbing wrong all week, leaving her residual limb raw and swollen. Every step felt like walking on broken glass. But her mother's birthday was in 3 days. And Lisa had been planning this for months. $11. That's what she had, saved quarter by quarter from recycling cans after school, coins she'd found in couch cushions, a crumpled 5 her mom had given her for lunch that she'd skipped to keep, $11 for the lavender candle at the discount store. It wasn't much. Lisa knew that. But her mom used to light lavender candles every Sunday night when her dad was alive. They'd sit together in the living room, the 3 of them, and just be. Her mom hadn't lit a candle since the accident. Maybe this would help. Maybe it would bring back something they'd lost. So Lisa strapped on the prosthetic that didn't fit right, grabbed her crutches, took the bus alone because her mom was working a double. And she went to the mall. The discount store was at the far end. Lisa moved through the crowds slowly, carefully, eyes on the floor, watching for anything that might trip her. Wet tiles, loose carpet, feet that stepped into her path without warning. People stared. They always did. Some looked away fast, embarrassed to be caught. Others watched with that tilted head pity she hated more than cruelty. A few kids pointed before their parents yanked their hands down. Lisa kept her head up, kept moving. She found the candle in aisle 3, last one on the shelf. "Lavender Dreams," the label said. $10.99. She had exactly enough. At the register, she counted out her coins carefully. The cashier looked annoyed but took them anyway. Dropped the candle in a small plastic bag. Lisa held it against her chest like treasure. Her mom was going to love it. She was halfway across the parking lot when she heard the footsteps. Fast. Getting closer. She didn't turn around. Thought maybe it was someone in a hurry. Someone rushing to their car. Then the shove came. Hard, between her shoulder blades. Her crutches flew forward, her balance vanished, and suddenly the asphalt was rushing up to meet her. She hit the ground with her palms first, then her knees, then her hip. The prosthetic twisted beneath her at an angle that sent pain shooting up her thigh. The bag slipped from her grip. The candle rolled across the pavement. And then she heard the laughter. Curtis stood over her, hand on his hip, grinning like he'd just won a prize. "Look at her!" He pointed down at Lisa like she was a circus act. "She can't even stand up." Lisa's palms were bleeding. Her cheeks burned with shame. She reached for her crutches, but they were too far away. Curtis kicked one further. "Oops." Tears spilled down her face. She couldn't stop them, couldn't breathe right. Her chest was too tight and the world was too loud and everyone was watching, because they were. A couple exiting the mall slowed down. Looked, kept walking. A woman loading groceries glanced over, shook her head, got in her car. A group of teenagers filmed on their phones, laughing, adding to the chorus. No one helped. No one said a word. Curtis spotted the bag, snatched it up, pulled out the candle. "What's this, a present?" He read the price tag. $11? That's pathetic. Is this seriously all you can afford? "Please," Lisa's voice cracked. "It's for my mom. Please." Curtis looked at her, at the tears, at the begging, and smiled wider. He held the candle over his head, arm cocked back, ready to throw it across the parking lot. "Say goodbye to Mommy's gift." Lisa closed her eyes. This was it. The world won. The cruelty won. Just like it always did. And then, a shadow fell over Curtis, and the parking lot went dead silent. The Rolls-Royce moved like a shadow. Black. Silent. Gliding through the parking lot with the kind of quiet that expensive things have. The kind of quiet that comes before storms. Inside, Dante Bellucci sat in the back seat, reviewing documents for a meeting across town. Numbers, contracts, the business of empire. His driver, Marco, navigated toward the exit. Beside him sat Enzo, Dante's most trusted lieutenant. Both men had been with him for 15 years. Both knew when to speak and when to stay silent. This was a silent ride. Until it wasn't. Marco slowed the car. "Boss, look." Dante didn't look up. "We're late." "Boss." Marco's voice was different now. Tighter. "You need to see this." Dante raised his eyes. Through the tinted window, he saw a boy. 10, maybe 11. Standing in the middle of the parking lot with his hand on his hip and a grin on his face. Laughing. Pointing down at something. Number. Someone. A girl. She was on the ground. Crutches scattered around her like broken wings. A prosthetic leg twisted at a painful angle. her palms pressed against the asphalt, her face streaked with tears and dirt, and the boy was holding something over his head, taunting her, enjoying every second. Dante's chest went cold. For a moment, he wasn't in the car anymore. He was 19, standing in a doorway, looking at Maria on the ground of their school courtyard, her braces knocked off, her books scattered, 3 boys circling her like wolves. He remembered her face, the tears, the helplessness, the way she looked up at him like he was the only person in the world who could save her. He saved her that day, sent all 3 boys to the hospital, but he couldn't save her from the years of smaller cuts, the whispers, the loneliness, the slow erosion of her will to live. He couldn't save her from herself. And now, 20 years later, here it was again. The same scene, different faces, same cruelty. The girl on the ground could have been Maria. She could have been any of the ones he couldn't protect. Dante's hand moved before his brain caught up. "Stop the car." Marco pulled to a halt. The Rolls-Royce sat 15 feet behind the boy, engine purring so soft it barely made a sound. Enzo turned. "Want me to handle it?" "No." Dante reached for the door. "Stay here. Both of you." He didn't wait for a response. The rear window slid down first. Nobody noticed. The crowd, a couple near the mall entrance, a woman by her car, teenagers with phones raised, was too focused on the show. The boys' laughter echoed across the lot. The girls' sobs were barely audible beneath it. Dante watched for 3 seconds, reading the scene, the boys' posture, the girls' fear, the bystanders doing nothing. His jaw tightened. The door opened. One polished shoe touched the asphalt. Then another. He rose from the car like smoke. Slow, deliberate, his dark blue suit catching the afternoon sun. The tattoos on his neck visible above his open collar, his eyes hidden behind sunglasses that reflected the world like black mirrors. He stood still for a moment, just watching. The woman loading groceries froze mid-step. Her bag slipped from her fingers. The couple near the entrance stopped walking. The man put his arm around the woman and pulled her back toward the doors. The teenagers lowered their phones. One of them whispered something. They scattered like roaches. The parking lot went silent. Not quiet. Silent. The kind of silence that happens when a predator enters the room. But Curtis didn't notice. He was too busy laughing, too busy enjoying his power over someone who couldn't fight back, too busy being the center of his own little world. He had no idea that world was about to collapse. Dante removed his sunglasses. His eyes found the girl first. The tears, the trembling hands, the way she'd stopped fighting and just accepted. Something twisted in his chest, something old, something that never healed. Then his eyes moved to the boy, and went completely flat. He stepped forward. Dante's footsteps echoed across the parking lot, slow, measured, each one landing like a verdict. He didn't rush. Men like Dante never rushed. Rushing was for people who were afraid of losing control. Dante hadn't lost control in 20 years. Curtis was still laughing, still holding the candle over his head, still drunk on his own cruelty. "Say goodbye to—" "Put it down." The voice came from behind him. Low, calm, the kind of calm that made the air feel heavier. Curtis spun around, and the laughter died in his throat. The man standing 3 feet away was nothing like anyone Curtis had ever seen. He was tall, broad, dressed in a suit that looked like it cost more than Curtis's father made in a month. His shirt was open at the collar, revealing a neck covered in ink, symbols and script that seemed to move in the light. But it wasn't the clothes, it wasn't the tattoos. It was the eyes. Dark, flat, looking at Curtis like he was something to be studied, calculated, decided upon. Curtis had seen anger before. He'd seen frustration. He'd seen adults who wanted to yell but held back because of who his parents were. This wasn't anger. This was something worse. This was nothing at all. I said, "Put it down." The man didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. The words landed like stones dropped into still water. Curtis's arm lowered on its own. The candle slipped from his fingers. It hit the asphalt and rolled toward Lisa, who stared at the scene with wide, uncomprehending eyes. Curtis started. "Don't speak." Curtis's mouth closed. Dante took another step forward, then another, until he was close enough that Curtis could smell his cologne. Something expensive. Something that reminded him of his father's office. But his father's office had never felt like this. Curtis's heart was hammering. His palms were slick with sweat. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but his legs wouldn't move. The man crouched down. Slow. Controlled. Bringing himself to Curtis's eye level. His knees didn't touch the dirty asphalt. His suit didn't wrinkle. He just descended. Like gravity was something he negotiated with. This close, Curtis could see the scars on his knuckles. The lines around his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. The absolute stillness of someone who had nothing left to prove. "What's your name?" Curtis swallowed. Curtis. Curtis Miller." "Curtis Miller." The man repeated it like he was filing it away. "You know who I am?" Curtis shook his head. "Good. Let's keep it that way." The man's eyes flicked to Lisa on the ground, to the scattered crutches, to the tears still streaming down her face. Then back to Curtis. "You see that girl?" Curtis nodded. His chin trembled. "She's 11 years old. She lost her leg in an accident. The same accident that killed her father." Curtis felt something cold spread through his chest. Every single day she wakes up and faces a world that wasn't built for her. She straps on a leg that hurts. She grabs crutches that remind her of what she lost. She walks into places where people stare. Whisper. Look away. The man leaned closer. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "She fights battles you can't even imagine. She carries weight you couldn't lift for 5 minutes. And she does it without complaining, without asking for pity, without hurting anyone." Curtis's eyes were burning now. His lip quivered. "And then there's you." The man paused, let the silence stretch. Standing over her, laughing, pointing, taking the one thing she saved for months to buy. For her mother. Curtis felt a tear slip down his cheek. He didn't wipe it away. The man tilted his head, studied him like a puzzle he'd already solved. "So, here's my question, Curtis Miller." He leaned in until Curtis could see his own reflection in those dark, empty eyes. "She has every reason to be cruel, and she's kind. You have every reason to be kind. And you're cruel." A pause. "What's your excuse for being so small?" Curtis's legs gave out. Dante held Curtis's gaze for 3 more seconds. 3 seconds of silence, 3 seconds of wait. 3 seconds that felt like a lifetime to the boy trembling before him. Then he did something worse than yelling, worse than threatening, worse than anything Curtis had ever experienced. He turned his back. Completely, utterly, like Curtis had stopped existing. No final warning, no second glance, no acknowledgement that the boy was even there. Curtis Miller, who had spent his entire life demanding attention, forcing people to notice him, making himself impossible to ignore, was dismissed, erased, reduced to nothing. He stood there, shaking, tears streaming down his face, mouth open but no words coming out. He didn't exist anymore, and somehow, that was the worst punishment of all. Dante walked toward Lisa. His footsteps were different now, still measured but softer. The predator energy that had filled the parking lot shifted into something else. Something careful. Lisa watched him approach with wide eyes. Her heart was still racing, her palms still bleeding against the asphalt. She didn't understand what was happening, didn't understand who this man was, or why he'd appeared like a dark angel to stop the cruelty. Part of her wanted to be afraid. But when he crouched down beside her, the same way he'd crouched in front of Curtis, but gentler, slower, she didn't see a monster. She saw something she hadn't seen in 2 years. Someone looking at her like she mattered. "Hey." His voice was different now. The cold edge was gone. What remained was low, warm, almost kind. "You okay, kid?" Lisa blinked. The question was so simple, so ordinary. But something about the way he asked it, direct, no pity, no awkwardness, made her throat tighten. She opened her mouth to say, "I'm fine." The automatic response. The words she'd trained herself to say whenever anyone asked. But they wouldn't come. Instead, she shook her head. Just slightly. Just enough. "No," she whispered. "Not really." Dante nodded. Like that was the right answer. Like honesty was exactly what he expected. "Didn't think so." He reached for her crutches, picked them up one at a time, brushed the dirt off the grips with his scarred hands like it mattered, like she mattered. Then he held them out to her. "These yours?" She nodded. "They look like they've been through some battles." Lisa almost laughed. Almost. "Yeah, they have." "Good." He set them beside her. "Battle-tested is better than shiny and new." He didn't grab her arm, didn't pull her up like she was helpless. Instead, he extended his hand. Palm up, an offer, not a command. "Whenever you're ready." Lisa stared at his hand. The scars. The tattoos that crept past his wrist. The steadiness of someone who had all the time in the world. She took it. His grip was firm but careful. He rose slowly, letting her set the pace, letting her find her balance on her own terms. When she wobbled, he didn't overreact, just kept his hand steady until she was upright. "There you go." He released her hand, stepped back, gave her space. Lisa grabbed her crutches, positioned them under her arms, took a breath. She was standing. Dante picked up the candle from where it had rolled, examined it. The glass was cracked but not shattered. The lavender wax inside was still intact. "This the present?" Lisa nodded. Her voice was barely a whisper. "For my mom. Her birthday." Dante turned the candle in his hands. Something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe. Memory. "Lavender," he said quietly. "My sister loved lavender." He handed it back to her, carefully, like it was precious. "She's gonna love it." Lisa clutched the candle against her chest. The tears came again, but different this time. Not from shame, not from pain, from something she couldn't name. For 2 years, the world had looked at her and seen a tragedy, a problem, a girl defined by what she'd lost. But this man, this terrifying, powerful stranger, had looked at her and seen something else. A person, just a person, and somehow that was everything. The Rolls-Royce pulled up beside them. Marco stepped out and opened the rear door without a word. Enzo remained in the passenger seat, eyes scanning the parking lot like a hawk watching for threats. Dante gestured toward the open door. "Come on, we're taking you home." Lisa hesitated. Every lesson her mother had ever taught her screamed in the back of her mind. Don't get in cars with strangers. Don't trust people you don't know. The world is dangerous. But the world had just proven itself dangerous in a different way. The world had watched a boy torment her and done nothing. This stranger had done something. I don't she started. Kid. Dante's voice was gentle but firm. You're bleeding. Your leg's messed up. And that boy's parents are probably lawyers who'll spin this whole thing sideways if anyone calls the cops. He paused. Let me get you home safe, that's all. Lisa looked at the car, at the cracked candle in her hands, at the blood drying on her palms. She got in. The interior was like nothing she'd ever seen. Leather seats softer than her bed at home. Air that smelled clean and expensive. Tinted windows that turned the outside world into shadows. Dante slid in beside her. Not too close. Giving her space. Address? She told him. He relayed it to Marco. The car pulled away in silence. Lisa sat rigid, the candle clutched against her chest like a shield. She didn't know what to say. Didn't know if she should say anything. The man beside her had just terrified a bully into tears without raising a hand. Had made an entire parking lot of people scatter like frightened birds. Who was he? You're wondering who I am? Lisa flinched. It was like he'd read her mind. Dante stared straight ahead. His profile was sharp in the dim light. The tattoos on his neck seemed to pulse with the rhythm of the road. You don't need to know, he continued. It's better if you don't. Just know that I'm not going to hurt you. I know, Lisa said quietly. Dante turned. Looked at her for the first time since they'd gotten in the car. How? Lisa shrugged. She didn't have words for it. Just a feeling. The same feeling she used to get when her father was nearby. Safe. Protected. I just do. Something shifted in Dante's expression. A crack in the armor. Just for a second. Then it was gone. They rode in silence for a few blocks. The city scrolled past the tinted windows like a movie Lisa wasn't part of. Finally, Dante spoke again. I had a sister. Lisa turned. Maria? She was 4 years younger than me. Born with a spine that didn't work right. Walked with braces her whole life. He paused. His jaw tightened. She was the kindest person I ever knew. Gave away everything she had. Believed in people even when they gave her every reason not to. Lisa watched his face. The pain was there, buried deep, but visible if you knew how to look. What happened to her? Dante was quiet for a long moment. The world broke her, piece by piece, until she couldn't carry it anymore. He didn't say how. He didn't need to. Lisa understood. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't be. His voice was rough. It was a long time ago, but I think about her every day, and I think... He turned to look at Lisa. Really look. She would have liked you. You've got the same fire. The car stopped in front of Lisa's apartment building. Small, worn. Nothing like the world Dante came from. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. Plain white, a phone number in black ink. Nothing else. Take this. Lisa took it, turned it over. Blank on both sides except for the number. Anyone ever bothers you again, at school, on the street, anywhere, you call that number. What happens if I call? Dante's eyes met hers. Steady, certain. Someone will answer. And then someone will come. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. Lisa slipped the card into her pocket. Thank you, she said. For everything. Dante nodded once. Go be with your mom, kid. She's lucky to have you. Curtis Miller didn't sleep that night. He lay in his bed, the expensive one with the memory foam mattress and the designer sheets, and stared at the ceiling. The house was silent. His parents were out. Rosa had gone home hours ago. He was alone, just like always. But tonight, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt heavy, suffocating, filled with a question that wouldn't stop echoing in his skull. What's your excuse for being so small? He squeezed his eyes shut, tried to forget, tried to convince himself it didn't matter, that the man was crazy, that the girl was nobody. But he couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face. The tears, the trembling hands, the way she'd begged him to stop, for a candle, for her mom. And he'd laughed. Curtis rolled over and pressed his face into the pillow. For the first time in his life, he felt the weight of what he was. And it crushed him. 3 days passed. Curtis didn't go to school, told Rosa he was sick. She didn't question it. Nobody ever questioned him. He stayed in his room, didn't play video games, didn't scroll his phone, just sat there, replaying the parking lot over and over. The man's eyes, flat, empty, seeing right through him. The girl on the ground, broken but still fighting. The question that wouldn't let him go. On the 4th day, Curtis made a decision. He had to find her. He took the bus to the mall, walked the parking lot, felt sick the whole time. She wasn't there. Of course she wasn't. Why would she ever come back to the place where he'd humiliated her? But Curtis didn't give up. He asked around, described her to store clerks, got strange looks, got ignored, got told to leave. Finally, an old security guard recognized the description. The girl with the crutches? Yeah, I've seen her. She comes through here sometimes. Lives a few blocks east, I think. Near the laundromat on 5th. Curtis walked. He found her outside a small apartment building. She was sitting on the front steps, her crutches leaning against the railing. A sketchbook was open on her lap. She was drawing something, flowers maybe, with a focus that made the world around her disappear. Curtis stopped 10 feet away. His legs wouldn't move any closer. Lisa? She looked up. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. Her whole body tensed like she was preparing to run. What do you want? Curtis opened his mouth, closed it. The words he'd rehearsed vanished. His voice cracked. I came to say I'm sorry. Lisa stared at him. I'm sorry, he repeated. Louder this time. His eyes were burning. What I did was, I don't even know why I did it. I saw you and I wanted to feel, I don't know, bigger, better, something. A tear slipped down his cheek. He didn't wipe it away. But I'm not bigger. I'm not better. I'm just small, like he said. Lisa didn't respond, just watched him, waiting. I can't take it back. Curtis's voice was barely a whisper now. But I needed you to know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He stood there, shaking, exposed. Lisa was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay. That was all. But somehow it was enough. Curtis walked away that day a different person. Not fixed, not healed, but cracked open in a way that let something new begin to grow. And Lisa? Lisa went back to school the next week. The whispers were still there. They always would be. But something had shifted. She walked differently now. Not faster, not smoother, but taller. Head high, eyes forward, shoulders back. The girl who used to shrink from stairs now met them. The girl who used to feel invisible now took up space. She wasn't the tragedy anymore, wasn't the girl with one leg. She was Lisa Evans, survivor, fighter, seen. And when people looked at her now, they didn't see what she'd lost. They saw what she'd become.